Donald Trump just cancelled all trade negotiations with Canada. And it kicked off over a damn TV ad.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
Trade war mode on. This is not talking shop. This is war by trade. Canada and the US, the biggest trading partners in the world, now locked in battle. No sugarcoating. One side pulled the plug, the other is scrambling. And you better believe someone is gonna get hurt. Stay with me and I will show you who, how, and why. Here is how it went down. Ontario ran a US-aired ad featuring Ronald Reagan, using his 1987 radio address about tariffs. Sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. The ad criticized US tariffs, implicitly putting Canada and Ontario in the picture. That got picked up in Michigan, the battleground states. Trump flipped. On his platform, he declared, based on their behavior, all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. Shut up. The presidency of Reagan weighed in. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation said Ontario used and edited the 1987 speech without permission and misrepresented it. Boom. Trade dinner is over. Papers off the table. Negotiations called off. What does terminated all trade negotiations mean in practice? It means Canada and the US no longer have a live working table for ironing out steel, aluminum, auto parts, and energy deals. It means Washington holds the hammer and can escalate. Mark Carney said Canada stands ready to resume talks, but only when the US wants. Meanwhile, the Canadian business mood not good. The Bank of Canada says firms' outlook are subdued thanks to tariff and trade tension risks. Trade war is not theoretical. It's real. Quick pit stop. Hit subscribe if you want more of this straight talk. And grab a membership if you want to help me keep it independent. Alright, now back to it. So what the hell are they really upset about? This was not just a quarrel or an ad. It ties into broader frustration. Trump's tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, and auto have already been a long-running issue. Canada was under pressure. The ad touched a nerve. From Washington's view, a foreign government is using a US icon to publicly criticize US trade policy, precisely when the US Supreme Court is reviewing whether the president can impose massive tariffs unilaterally. In other words, it was not just about Canada. It was about US control, image, leverage. The trade war got personal. So what are the stakes for Canada-US trade? With Canada dependent on the US for around 70% of exports, the stakes are high. Here is the playbook in a trade war. The US can impose tariffs, quotas, or slow down import clearance. Canada losing leverage because it has fewer alternative large markets. Yet, business starts hedging, investment freezes, supply chains shift, costs rise. We already see signs. The Bank of Canada noted subdued business outlook because of trade tension. So yes, Canada's economy enters a harder mode. So, what are our options here? Carney's government is walking a tightrope. They don't want full blown retaliation because they would risk even worse blowback. Carney said they are not going to let US firms roam free in Canadian market if a deal fails. Meanwhile, Canada is trying to diversify trade away from the US. But that takes years, not weeks. Bottom line, Canada is cornered. The US has the bigger stake. Canada's options are weak. That makes this trade war tilt strongly US favored. So what happens next? Here is where we go in the coming weeks. US might impose new tariffs specifically on Canadian sectors, steel, autos, maybe energy. They now have the rhetorical justification. Canada responds carefully, maybe via WTO, but will avoid escalating because they have less firepower. Business uncertainty stays high. Investment gets delayed. Canadian companies may shift supply chain away from US anchor. The Reuters Market Watch flagged this move will cast a cloud over Canadian growth and trade-dependent sectors. Make no mistake, this is not bottled anymore. It's unleashed. This is about trade war mechanics, leverage, tariffs, supply chains, imbalance. So here are the facts. US ended negotiations unilaterally. That's a weaponization of diplomacy. Canada, despite being the trusted neighbor, is being treated as a target again. The core tool is tariffs and negotiation freeze. That's textbook trade war, not friendly fire. The game changes. Canada must win with weaker weapons. So what does Canada needs to watch? If US drops new tariffs, the freeze escalates to full war, clearing delays and customs choke points. Trade wars are not just new duties. They are logistics nightmares, diversification. Canada's shift to non-US markets is real, but slow. Meanwhile, the US market still dominates. Business investment. If firms pause expansion because of risk, the structural damage starts. Long shot, but Canada may choose formal complaints. Doesn't fix short-term pain. Carney will want to calm things, but US holds initiative now. So here's what my take is. Canada got punched in the gut because it underestimated how trade aggressive the US is under Trump. The ad was the spark, but the gun was already loaded. Trump's statement was a strategic move. Freeze talks, raise the stakes, we decide trade terms. Canada is now reacting, not leading. That's exactly what Trump wanted. If Canada does not adapt fast, this war could bleed exports, delay investments, and shift the balance northwards. The US wants advantage. Canada needs to stop acting surprised and start acting strategic. This is no friendly fire. This is full-on trade war, and Canada is going to feel it. So that's where we stand. Trade negotiations terminated. A Canadian province's ad triggered the flashpoint. But the real battle lines were already drawn. Going forward, watch for tariff bullets. Watch for supply chain shrapnel. Watch for Canada scrambling. Next time we meet, we see if tariff notices land and how Ottawa reacts. If Canada does not hit back smart and fast, this war gets ugly. I will keep watching. You stay locked in. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.